if these stars then refer to the angels, and this refers to Satan's original rebellion against God, then this may indicate that a third of the angels fell with Satan. And now stars also are in Scripture representative of world leaders, and so this should represent those world leaders who Satan, or the Antichrist, had to overcome in his rise to power. Perhaps as many as a third of the world leaders were opposed to the Antichrist, and he had to overcome them or conquer them. So there's two different interpretations of what this could mean, and both of them may be true, and which particular one is actually referring to, we cannot tell at this time. But anyway, verse 4 says, the sail swept away a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. Okay, so down through history, we've seen so many instances of anti-Semitism where various nations have attempted to eliminate Israel. We can go back in history. Egypt itself enslaved Israel, and the Pharaoh ordered that all the male children be thrown into the river and killed and so forth. That would be an example. The 7 nations who were occupying Canaan, the Exodus, and God brought Israel out of Egypt and brought them up to Canaan. They tried to eliminate Israel. Remember Balak and Balaam and all those? They tried to eliminate. So down through history, Satan has made many attempts to annihilate Israel. When the Babylonians conquered Israel, they tried to eliminate them and assimilate them and so forth. So, many occasions Satan tried to annihilate Israel, thinking that since Israel played so great a part in God's plan of salvation and the eternal plans of God, that if Satan eliminated Israel, then that would cause God's plans not to be fulfilled. When Jesus himself was born, Herod tried to have Christ killed by killing all the babies who were born around Bethlehem. So this was another attempt. So this Satan attempting to devour the child is symbolic of Satan's attempt to eliminate Israel and her child. Okay, then going on in verse 5, then the next person which we have is the child. Verse 5, and she, that is this woman, which represents Israel, she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled to the wilderness, for she had a place prepared by God, so that there she might be nourished for 1,260 days. Okay, the male child, of course, is Christ. And so Israel gave birth, or brought forth Christ. And he is the one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Okay, so this simply refers to the fact that when Christ is ruling, that there will be strict righteousness and justice. Crime will be practically non-existent because the laws of God will be so strictly enforced. And of course, nobody will be able to get away with anything because since Christ has all knowledge, he will know who has committed a crime and who has not. They won't have to have lengthy trials to try and prove that somebody is guilty because Christ will know. Okay, and so the child was caught up to God, in the end of verse 5 there, and to his throne. This refers to the ascension of Christ. He ascended to the right hand of God, and that's where he is now. Okay, and then between verse 5 and 6, we skip over the whole present period of time, the time of the church, and verse 6 then refers to the tribulation. It says, and the woman fled into the wilderness. Okay, remember, Jesus told that there was going to be the abomination of desolation set up in the temple, and when that happened, that everyone who was there around Jerusalem was to flee immediately. If you were in the field, you weren't supposed to return back and get any clothes or anything. If you were on the rooftop, you weren't supposed to go down into the house, so you could get out immediately. Okay, so that's what this is talking about. So, at the beginning of the Great Tribulation, when the abomination of desolation is set up, the woman is to flee to the wilderness. Now, at this time, this is referring to the remnant of Israel, the true believers. They were to flee to the wilderness because the Antichrist and Satan will be particularly harsh in their persecution of the Jews. And the wilderness is probably referring down to the east and southeast of Jerusalem. Many people think that it's the vicinity of Petra, down in that area, Edom. And it says, the woman fled to the wilderness where she had a place prepared by God. This shows that that God will be protecting her, protecting Israel, and these are God's remnant, and so that she might be nourished for 1,260 days. Okay, this again is 3.5 years. Okay, now the next person we have is Michael, the archangel, verse 7. And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon. Of course, that's Satan, the devil. And the dragon and his angels waged war, and they were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, and he was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Okay, so up to this point, Satan does have access to heaven. Now, the word Satan means accuser. So he is the accuser. Whenever a Christian sins, Satan goes before God and brings accusation against the Christian. But Jesus is our advocate, so then Jesus will stand up and say that he died for that sin. Okay, so we have Satan, the accuser, and Jesus, our advocate. Satan accuses us, Jesus defends us. But now, tribulation, Michael and his angels are going to cast Satan out of heaven. I often wonder, when angels fight, what kind of weapons do they use? So I imagine it's simply the weapon of truth. When the devil stands up and proclaims himself to be God, and the angels say, no, you're not God, you are a creature, you are a liar, you are a deceiver, and so the truth will overcome the lies of Satan. Not the only way I can imagine it, but I don't think I can imagine angels having weapons, whatever. But anyway, whatever weapons they might use, or whatever power, I think truth will be the main thing, for truth will overcome the lies of Satan, the falsehood of Satan. Okay, so when Satan and his angels now are cast out, and this is during, sometime during the first part of the tribulation, probably. So now, at the beginning of the Great Tribulation, in the middle, verse 10 says, and I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser, that's what Satan means, the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down, who accuses them before our God day and night. They overcame him, that is, the brethren, to the brethren is the antecedent to them. So Satan accuses the brethren, he accuses them before God day and night, and they, referring to the brethren, they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb. Okay, so through the death of Christ, that the believers overcome Satan, and because of the word of their testimony. So as we proclaim God throughout the world, we are defeating Satan and casting out his kingdom. And they did not love their life even to death. So the believers, especially those in tribulation, will be maintaining their testimony for God, and they will be unconcerned about their own lives. They will be concerned about bearing witness and the testimony for God. And of course, many will lose their lives because of it. Okay, verse 12 says, for this reason rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. That's because Satan has been cast out, Satan and his angels have been cast out, so those in heaven rejoice. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath. Okay, so the devil cast out of heaven with his angels, his evil angel followers, and he is very angry at God and all God's people and all the saints, and knowing that he has only a short time. So this is particularly almost illogical, because Satan knows that he's doomed, and yet he doesn't give up. So he knows he has only a short time. Well, how long a time does he have? Well, in comparison to eternity, of course, any time is a short time, but he has the 3.5 years of the tribulation remaining, and then at the end of that, the Antichrist and the false prophet will be cast into the lake of fire when Christ returns. Satan will be bound in the abyss, the bottomless pit, for the 1,000 years that Christ is reigning upon the earth. And remember, during that 1,000 years, there are those who have gone into the millennium with their mortal bodies, and they will be multiplying, and there will be a population explosion like never before, because everything is going to be ideal. There's going to be economic prosperity. There's going to be health. There's going to be little crime. There'll be no famines. There's going to be plenty of food. Everybody's going to be healthy, and everything is going to be ideal under the reign of Christ. And for the population during that 1,000 years, it's going to explode. And at the end of the 1,000 years, Satan will be released. Now, the children born to the original people who go into the millennium, well, all those people, of course, will be believers, but their children and their children's children, their descendants, many of them will not. So when Satan is released, he will find many people who were willing to follow Satan and rebel against Christ. So they come up under Satan's leadership. He will organize them, bring them up to attack Jerusalem. The fire will come down and annihilate them. And so then, at that time, Satan will be cast into the lake of fire. So at the most, at this point, Satan has only 1,003.5 years left, and so he has a little time, a great wrath, because he knows that he has only a short time. There at the end of verse 12. So a short time, 1,003.5 years is a short time, of course, in comparison to eternity, and in comparison to the amount of time that he has already existed since he was created. So Satan's time is short, but he doesn't give up. He still has the hope that he will be able to replace God on the throne. Okay, verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman. Remember, that's Israel. He persecutes Israel, who gave birth to the male child. Which, of course, isn't the Virgin Mary herself, because Virgin Mary won't even be there. But so this is talking about Israel. He persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, and the 2 wings of the great eagle were given to the woman in order that she might fly into the wilderness to her place. Remember, a place had been prepared for her by God, where she was nourished for a time and times and half a time from the presence of the serpent. Okay, so the eagle wings symbolize the help that God gives to Israel, that's protection and so forth, to support. So Israel will be protected, defended, and helped by God during this final 3.5 years. And so Israel will be protected from the serpent. Now this is a special group that God protects. Not all Israel will be protected, because we know that many Israelites will be killed. Many Israelites will not be protected. So some will and some won't. Those who are particularly God's chosen among all of Israel. And let's see, Zechariah 13:8 says, "And it will come about in all the land, declares the Lord, that 2 parts in it will be cut off and perish, but the 3rd will be left in it." So this indicates that 2/3 of the Israelites will perish, and only the 1/3 will be protected. Okay, so this probably will refer to those that third of the Israelites who will be protected, and the other 2/3 who are not protected will perish at the hands of the Antichrist. Verse 15 says, "And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so that he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon poured out of his mouth. Okay, so once again, this is speaking symbolically. The flood no doubt refers to like armies or church parties that the Antichrist will send out to try to find and kill Israelites wherever they may be. And as Israel is in her place, protected by God, whenever these armies or church parties go up to try and capture them or kill them, that the earth helps them. It says, and the earth helped the woman, verse 16, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon poured out of his mouth. So somehow miraculously these soldiers or church parties sent out will be destroyed through supernatural means, miraculous means. Whether the earth opens up and swallows them up, whatever. And so then verse 17, and the dragon was then raised with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her offspring. Okay, so this is a small group that is particularly protected by God, but in the rest of the world there's still plenty of other Jews whom the dragon, who is the devil, will lead the Antichrist to persecute and to kill. And so it says, the rest of her offspring who keeps the commandments of God and who holds the testimony of Jesus. Okay, now, whether this actually will include Gentiles as well, we can't really be sure, but although it's specifically talking about Jews, it talks about the rest of her offspring. So we know the Antichrist is going to be persecuting everyone who is a believer in Christ. Everyone who does not receive the mark of the beast and so forth will be persecuted and put to death. Okay, so then this chapter 12 has given us information about Israel, about Satan, about Christ, about Michael the archangel, and some of their activities during the tribulation period. And then in chapter 13 we'll go on and talk about the two beasts, the Antichrist and the false prophet. So we'll continue there next time in chapter 15.